All right. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the ONFORM podcast. Baby, we are back with a vengeance. We are on a Thursday time frame today. Mainly because I've been under the weather for a little bit. Now I am coming out of that, thank goodness. And I'm just happy to be on the stream and be talking to you guys again. So we have a lot to talk about, a lot to go over in today's stream for sure. Mainly because there's a lot of stuff that's kind of went down. I mean, we've had like almost two whole games that we have we need to catch up on. Not almost, but we do have two whole games that we need to catch up on. And then, of course, all of the Darwin Núñez drama, all of the Callagher drama, a lot of stuff that we need to catch up on. So appreciate all of you guys for popping in and hanging out with me today. And of course, this podcast always is going to be available on all streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts today. So it typically releases today. I'm going to keep that schedule as we go. And this episode will be released today as well. So let's talk about it. What's up? Hey Dan, hey, let's do this. Hope you're feeling better. I am feeling better. I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate the well wishes on that. I might get a couple coughs into this, but I think we should be all right. There's one. But yeah, let's talk about these games, man. So obviously, as we do every single time we do an on form, every single time we do one of these, we talk about which teams are on form, which teams are out of form for the week. We typically choose about three. And because we kind of caught it where there's been two games back to back, it makes it a little bit more tricky, right? For some teams, less tricky for others, right? So I would have easily put Manchester City into that out of form category, right? We're talking about last week's result against us, right? And then this week's result against Nottingham Forest, which they were able to bounce back and get their first win in 7 matches. But I'm gonna hold them to that, right? I'm gonna hold Manchester City to that, and maybe still put them in the out of form category, mainly because you're not supposed to be. Oh goodness, I'm sneezing and coughing and all this craziness. Mainly because you're not supposed to be going on seven game losing streaks, right? You're not supposed to be as the back-to-back champions, the Centurions, all of these extra winning the treble, all of these extra accolades that you get for being Manchester City. That's not supposed to happen. You are supposed to be Nottingham Forest, regardless of how good their season is going. So I'm gonna put them in the out of form category. Aston Villa could have definitely been in that category. They were able to bounce back with a 3-1 win, and I think that they maybe stay there, right? They were one of those teams that I thought was going to be a lot more competitive than they actually were this season. I thought they were going to be hanging around the top 4. They still obviously are. Excuse me. They still obviously are. They're still obviously in 7th place. And then people are saying that we're going to be Kevin Keegan Newcastle when they had a 12-point lead and lost the league to Arsenal in 1995. We'll talk about that in a sec. I don't think that's happening to this Liverpool team. I know they're wishing that and they're hoping that that's going to happen to this Liverpool team, but it's not. The third team that I'm going to put in that out of form category, depending on the result that happens at Tottenham today, they could potentially fall in there, even though they were coming off of, well, that win against City was 2 weeks ago. They couldn't beat a Fulham that were down a man, and it looks like they may be losing to Bournemouth today. So we'll reserve that spot there for them. I know Manchester United are in a rebuild and things like that, and then the other teams that lost, you kind of are expecting to lose. But let's talk about the teams that are on form for this week, right? So on form for this week, it's still got to be Liverpool for me at the number one spot. Mainly because let's look at the facts here for Liverpool. And to build off of what you're saying, Dan, there's some people that are saying, "Oh, Liverpool are gonna choke. Liverpool are gonna choke." How? I just don't see where you're seeing that. I haven't seen enough holes, enough gaps in what Arne Slot is doing for me to be convinced that that might be the case with this Liverpool side and Arne Slot. Let's look at the facts. And I said this in a comment yesterday that when we get results that maybe aren't going our way, we get things that maybe aren't going the way that we 100% planned them. Maybe there's a loss. Maybe there's a tough draw, right? Like at Newcastle that we just experienced. I always like to tell myself to look at the facts, right? Here are the facts. Liverpool are still the number one team in England right now with 35 points and a 7-point lead on the closest competitor to them, right? Excuse me. Which is a Chelsea side who everybody thought wasn't going to be competitive this year, right? And who everybody thought Manchester City was going to be the team to beat, and they have a 9-point lead on that team, right? Who are 2 points off of a Brighton side who potentially could overtake them today if they get a result. Here's more facts. Liverpool has still only lost one game in the league all season long in 14 matches played. That's the facts. Liverpool also have one of the highest goal differentials or highest goals scored in the league out of everyone played, only behind Chelsea right now. So the offense is clicking. And then Liverpool also have the best defense in the league with 11 goals scored against them. And we have the best goal difference in the league. So not only do we have one of the best attacks, or the second best attack in the league, thank you, Mo Salah, we also have the best defense in the league, which that could have looked a lot better if we didn't concede 3 goals yesterday. And we've only drawn twice in a game that I think, Newcastle yesterday, that I think we probably deserved to win off of that second half, but also deserved a draw at the same time, if that makes sense. So that's the facts. We also are a team that is sitting in first place in Europe. That is the facts and the reality of what's going on. What other supporters are thinking and what other supporters are saying is not reality. Sure, we can look back at history, but that's history. That's not what's happening right now. And I say this time and time again, we still have to go out, us included, Manchester City included, Arsenal included, Chelsea included. We all still have to go out and play football. We all still have to go out and get results. Period. That's just how this thing works. We can't just write it off and say, "Oh, it's done. The league's finished." I'll never say that until the league title's in our hand, or it's mathematically impossible for somebody to come back. And in the second, and the other way around, I'll never say that we choked because, excuse me, guys, my wife's spraying stuff in the background. But I'll never say that we choked because we just are predicting to choke. Like, that just makes no sense. And then Joe said, "Hello, I still think it's way too early to predict how things will turn out." Exactly. That's my point, especially when injuries keep occurring out of nowhere. 100% agree with that. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. We can't predict what's going to happen with us. And then we also can't predict what's happening with them and how they're going to perform. They need to play by the same rules as us, right? It has to be the same thing, right? So the same standard and the same rules that they're using to measure us, it has to be the same way around. We can't just say, "Well, Arsenal are going to win every single fixture for the rest of the year, so we need to make sure we're on our game." We don't know that, right? And we don't know if Chelsea is going to have an up and down patch. We don't know if we're going to have an up and down patch. But the reality is that we are 7 points clear of the closest person to us. We have the best defense in the league, one of the best attacks in the league, and we're sitting at the top of Europe. And that is the facts and the reality of what's happening right now. We are still the best team in the Premier League. We still are the best team in Europe based off of the facts, right? And then Dan also said, we went against Girona. I'm sure we can rest players in at least 2 in the last 2 because we'll be through no matter what in the UCL, which is true. And I'm not sure how the new standings are working with the Europa League. I'm not sure if, depending on what place that we place in, who we play, and all of that extra stuff. But it'll be nice to relieve some of that pressure, especially because, as we all know, in this month and in the next month, excuse me, I'm sorry, guys. My wife just sprayed like 5 sprays of like something crazy, and it's like tearing up my throat. Excuse me. Yeah, so we don't know how any of that stuff's gonna work. But regardless, let's get into and I'm so sorry about my voice. I'm so sorry about the coughing and things like that. But I wanted to get you guys a podcast episode. I'm gonna try to get her to open up this door if I can. Oh my God. Oh my word. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me. But oh my goodness. So let's talk about, dude, I am so sorry, guys. Let's talk about the stuff that we're seeing off the press. And this one's probably going to be a shorter episode. Let's be really honest though. Let's talk about some of the stuff that we're seeing off the press. In terms of Darwin Núñez, man, that's like a big talking point amongst Liverpool fans right now is Darwin Núñez. Darwin, what are we going to do with Darwin? What are we going to do with Darwin? He's a player that I like a lot. He's a player that I appreciate a whole ton. He's a player that I've tried to back since he's got here. And it's so unfortunate how things are kind of panning out for him right now, unfortunately. And it breaks my heart seeing pretty much the majority of the fan base kind of turn their back on him. And I don't know if it's his fault. He does have to take some responsibility for this, right? He does have to take responsibility for where he is in terms of his Liverpool career. It's been 3 years, especially with a new manager coming in. You can turn you get an opportunity and you get a chance to turn those things around as a Liverpool player. Especially you can see it with Ryan Gravenberch, who was a fringe player under Klopp. You see it with Curtis Jones, who was also another fringe player under Jurgen Klopp, and who has kind of made a full transformation underneath him. Those guys, they took the opportunity to impress the new manager and play the way that maybe they've always wanted to play, right, under this new manager. And I was hoping the same thing was going to happen with Darwin Núñez, but unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And I think a lot of the fans' patience have run thin with Darwin, and I think they're ready for like a new chapter. And to be fair, it's been 3 years, and he's the kind of guy I want to back. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. You can see the passion. You can see it in his eyes. You can see how badly he wants this thing. But for some reason, it's just not clicking for him at Liverpool FC. So, and then Trap Joe said, I think we're in a good spot with a calculated manager who's very aware of the circumstances. And I agree. He doesn't overdo it. He doesn't underdo it. He's like just right. He's just right there in the middle when it comes to management. And I love it. He's witty, he's smart, he's a great tactician, and I think he's probably the best for this role that we have, that we had open with Jurgen Klopp. And then Dan mentioned, did you see Chiesa scored in the U21 game? We need a guy to help with Nunez. It's getting hard to defend him. It's true. And I saw that he took his chance calmly, masterfully, carefully, and slotted in. Of course, that's a whole different level of football, right? In U21. But we need those things. We need players like that can put chances away, right? And Chiesa has a decent goal scoring record. He can play as a 9, and he's done that a few times for Juventus, behind a striker or a false 9, and then he can play on either side of the wing, left wing and right wing. So I'm really interested to see if Arne Slot experiments a little bit with him into those attacking combinations, kind of like what he did with Luis Diaz, which I thought we would see more of the Gakpo Diaz Salah combo, which I thought did really, really well against Leverkusen. But maybe we will. We'll see. I love it if he started scoring, but it never looks like happening. If he scored 20 to 25 goals a season, he would be a top player. And it's true. And the heartbreaking thing about Darwin Núñez, and the thing that just kills me the most, is that he gets himself in such great positions to score. He just is, his head is gone, right? I feel like he starts thinking about, what are they going to say about me in the news? What are they going to say about me in the press when I miss this, right? And not an if I miss this kind of thing. And it ends up breaking his concentration, and he misses it, right? He has to get into a rhythm of not needing so much confidence every single time that he's out playing, right? Because the greatest players or the greatest goal scorers, they typically don't need that, right? They don't need motivation. They come out and they perform every time, right? They come out and they get you goals regardless of what's going on in the media, what's going on in their personal life, all of that extra stuff. And he's such a sensitive guy. He's such an emotional player. And I don't know if that's great for Liverpool number 9. Like, Luis Suarez was really emotional, more so on the angry side than anything, but he used that, right? He used that intense emotion that he had, and became just like a one-man wrecking crew. And then he obviously calmed down, like, as he continued to get older, but the goal scoring stayed there. Excuse me. But it's more of like, is it in you, right? Is that finisher instinct, that predatorial instinct, is that hunger and things like that, it's in you, and you can't teach it. So, and I've said it many times over in other chat rooms, Darwin is more like a left winger at heart and not a true number 9 striker. If he doesn't change positions, he might keep struggling in our squad. That's a really good point. And what people don't really bring up a lot is, during his time at Benfica, he actually played like a wide left attacker or a wide left forward, more so than a traditional number 9 like we're playing him in, that he would pick up the ball wide and drift in and score a lot of his chances from that left wing. So I think that's something we definitely should probably look at. But we have so many left wingers. We got Gakpo, we got Diaz, and now we're putting Darwin on the left wing. It's tough. It's tough, and it's just an overload of players in one specific position. And then now what do you do with the number 9 position? You have Diego Jota, who struggles to stay fit, and that's pretty much it. And now it's looking like super revealing that, like, oh, maybe we didn't have the depth in attack that we thought that we did. And now it's like, do we now go and get 2 more attackers? Do we now go and get 2 more traditional number 9s? But where do you get them from? That's the question. That's the question now. Is that, like, okay, if we're going to go, maybe we keep Núñez. And I'd like to see Núñez maybe play a number 10 role or a box-to-box 8 role. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little crazy and I'm a little, I want this guy to succeed a little bit too bad, but I'd like to see him in a box-to-box 8 role. He has a tackle in him. He's got the pace. He's got the strength. He's got great aerial ability, so he can win a lot of 50-50s, right? And a lot of aerial duels. I'd like to see him drop back into midfield, almost like a Jolinton. I've been commenting on this here and there on the channel, and then obviously in other Liverpool channels and things like that. I'd love to see a transition like that for Darwin, because he still has the finishing ability, and he can pop up with the goal in here and there, which I think is great for a box-to-box 8 or a 10, right? So I think his strengths may suit there a little bit more, given that the left wing position is just like, we're well employed in the left wing position, to say the least. But he almost plays in a midfield role sometimes when he plays for us. So I'm really interested to see if maybe that's something that Arne Slot plays with, and we go after another more traditional 9 that's more instinctive and can get goals and can stay fit, right? If Diogo Jota just stayed fit, he'd be one of our greatest goal scorers, maybe ever. But he just can never stay fit. He's so clinical, so deadly, no nonsense, and gets it done almost every single time. But unfortunately, he's either out injured or struggling for fitness. But then when he hits his peak, and he's not in those 2 stages, he scores like almost every game, right? And then Joe also said Darwin might have the looks of Cavani in a way, but he's nowhere near him or Suarez when it comes to Uruguayan attackers. Not to mention Diego Forlan. A long list of just outstanding Uruguayan strikers, but he may be more of a Fede Valverde than a Suarez. Maybe we're looking at him different, right? Maybe we need to start looking at him different, and maybe we need to stop comparing him to Luis Suarez, Cavani, Forlan, some of the greatest Uruguayan attackers to ever come out of Uruguay, right? That we've been lucky enough to have one. And maybe we need to start comparing him more to guys that kind of match what he's got going on. And he reminds me a lot of Fetty. The intense running, the hard tackling, the ability to go grab a goal and do something spectacular just randomly out of the blue, but able to play literally any position, right back, left back, midfield, right wing, attacker. It doesn't matter. So maybe he's more of a Fede Valverde than he is maybe an Edison Cavani. And I'd love to see Slot maybe play with that a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, though. And it's exactly, Joe. Darwin is great with his defensive duties. And that's why I would like to see him play more in a more physical role where he can use his body, where he can get into the action, where he can knock people off the ball, where he can still, put sliding tackles in, use his ball carrying, and use his passing. I think his passing is so underrated. It may be better than his shooting. He's able to find Mo Salah so well, especially last season. And then some of the passing that he was doing in the past couple games before. I think he has all the tools to transition into midfield, but we need to have the right backup there, obviously, in the number 9 position for that to even make sense and for that to even happen, right? Wouldn't surprise me if the powers that be will look for another club for him. If we don't sell him at the end of the season, then the club is shooting itself in the foot. And you make a really good point there. If we don't sell Darwin, it's going to be hard to make anything back on him after this season. And they may be okay with that. I think if he doesn't go at the end of the season, he probably won't go for a while. But if he does go at the end of this season, then I think obviously we get maybe half of what we paid for him back. And I think we maybe get like super lucky with that if we're able to get 40 for him. But if it goes even any further than this, it's going to be hard to try to offload him for anything more than maybe 20 or 25, right? So Jota, yes, Nigel. Yeah, Jota is the guy, but man, he just can't stay fit to save his life. I just don't know what's going on with him. I want him to be the guy. I love Diogo Jota. He's such a clinical finisher, but he can't stay fit, which forces us to go back into the market. And you're not crazy, Rome. You're very rational with your thoughts, unlike others who keep repeating the status quo narratives. Might get 25 for him. I appreciate that, Joe, by the way. And I try, there's going to be so many Liverpool fan channels out there that are going to be saying, sell Nunes, get him out of here, get him out of here. We gave him 3 seasons, blah, blah, blah. 3 goals in 18 appearances or 11, whatever many appearances is this season, isn't good enough. If you're backing Nunes, you don't deserve to be at the club. Instead of like just defaulting to sell him, get rid of him, let's like try to figure out how can we get the most out of what he does well instead of trying to take a loss, because it's going to be a huge loss, right? Especially if the add-ons kicked in. We don't know what the add-ons were, but I heard that the add-ons took the deal over 100 million, right? So if the add-ons have already kicked in, if it was like an appearance add-on or a certain goals add-on or goal contribution add-ons, whatever it might have been, do you really think we're going to get even close to what we paid for him back? Probably not. So instead of taking a loss on a player who is popular, right, who does sell shirts, who is a cult favorite to a degree, there's a group of Liverpool supporters who are turning their back on him, obviously. Why not? Let's adjust where he can play. Similar to Bobby Firmino, right? Bobby Firmino was in a similar position at Liverpool when Jurgen Klopp came in. They bought him as a midfielder, right? It wasn't working out in the way that Jurgen Klopp wanted to play. He moved Bobby into a number 9, into a false 9. Similar position, similar role, but a little bit further up the field. And he became one of our greatest ever attackers, right? So I think it's going to be up to Arne Slot and his team to figure out how can they get the best out of Darwin Núñez without doing something rash, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on that. And then Happily says, we bought Darwin because of that one performance for Lisbon where he ripped through our defense. He was scoring in the Portuguese league, but it's a different kettle of fish in the Premier League. It's true. It's 100% fact. And that's why I'm very nervous about even going and getting a player like Gyökeres or even a player like Marmoush, because who says that if we go get these guys, we go get Gyökeres, we go get Marmoush, that they're not going to end up being like Darwin as well. That they're coming from a less competitive league. They're coming from a league where the defending isn't at the same level as the Premier League. Who says that Marmoush won't get bullied off the ball against these big boys in the Premier League? Playing against a 6'2", 6'4", 6'5" center back at Newcastle. Playing against Burns and Shaw, right? In a style of play that isn't the same as Gladbach. Gladbach play in an open, counter-attacking kind of play, type of style where he can run free and he can use his legs, where we don't play that way. What happens when Marmoush, we find out that Marmoush is actually another left winger. That Marmoush actually plays off of Hugo Hugo E, right? The big French kid, and he actually plays off the left-hand side of Hugo. And that, wait, Marmoush may be actually a little bit more of a winger than we thought. Marmoush actually may be a little bit more of a left winger than we thought. He is a 9. And then we drop 40, 50, 60 million on him in January, and we find out we just bought another left winger. And we're trying to fit another square peg in a round hole. Or we go and get Victor Gyökeres, who's free scoring, just like Darwin was in the Portuguese league and performing in Europe, by the way. Darwin was performing in Europe, by the way. Similar as Gyökeres, putting goals in, absolutely ridiculous. Everybody wanted his signature. Man United, Man City, we did as well. Right? And then we find out that Gyökeres isn't that guy when he comes to the Premier League. But that is the risk that you run when you go and try to find an attacker, especially in today's era where we're not very spoiled for choice when it comes to attackers. There aren't very many of them out there. In terms of number nines, there's plenty of wingers. So many kids want to be wingers now. No one wants to be a number 9 anymore. And there just isn't a ton of them out there. I'd say take a risk on Benjamin Sesko or Luis Openda. That's who I would pick. If I was Liverpool and I was being smart about this whole thing, I would take a risk on Benjamin Sesko or Luis Openda. I would do everything that I can to try to get one of those two at the club, especially because you have a great relationship with RB. Obviously, the former manager is the director there. We can work a deal. We can make something happen and find someone like that that's not going to be 60, 70, 80 million. Maybe it's a $45 million deal or a $50 million deal, which we're okay with parting with that. Who we know is more of a bona fide number 9 and not a winger masquerading as a 9. And we know the Bundesliga is a little bit more closer to what we're looking for in the Premier League than the Portuguese league, right? So that's my thoughts on that. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. I'm taking Sesko. I'm taking Openda over Gyökeres and Marmoush. Less hype around those guys. We can probably get a better deal for it. Great relationship with RB. I don't know. Excuse me. We'll be lucky to get a quarter of the money back for him. And that's true, Dan. Happily, Nunez needs tons of coaching in front of goal. He's not on his own. Both he and Diaz need to learn to stroke the ball for accuracy. And that's my biggest complaint about those two is that you guys have been playing football almost all of your lives, right? These are the basics. We have to know these things already, right? Maybe you just had a coach that was just putting you in the wrong position and you thought you were a number 9, but you actually were just a midfielder that had a really good nose for a goal. Like a Fede Valverde, right? Joe also said Darwin was more like a left winger in Portugal. Exactly. And even in the earlier national team games. So becoming a 9 all of a sudden, see it needs some brain adjustments. It's true. And if you look back at those things. Good point, Joe. Such a good point. You look back at those things, it was always already there. It was so obvious that he was not a number 9 coming in. And then if you look at the previous seasons before, you look at just go look at a highlight reel of Darwin. Almost every goal came from that left wing position. He was just a big left winger, right? And then Marmoush is a left winger as well, especially when he plays for Egypt. 100%. It's Marmoush on the left, Salah on the right. And a lot of people are saying Marmoush, mainly because he's Egyptian and mainly because he's scoring a lot of goals. But it's just not a good tactical fit. It's just not. And I would be shocked if FSG are fooled and go for Marmoush. I'll be happy if we get him, but then we got another problem on our hand. We still don't have a number 9 that's fit. Maybe Marmoush can transition into that position, into the 9, into a 9 that we need, a little bit better than Darwin can. But I wouldn't be super duper convinced of it, mainly based off of seasons previous. I'm still not convinced by his numbers from season previous. Everyone can have a good run of form, but it's the class that I'm looking for. Is the class there? Is the class permanent there for Marmoush? And I'm not convinced yet. He's 25 and he's just now having his breakout season. I know. Mo did the same thing. I know. Mo Salah is 1 in a million. It would be good if we could get Marmoush on loan. Not likely, though, but it would be nice if we could. That would be more ideal. More of a loan to buy kind of situation. But the fact that he's playing so well right now, that will never happen. And then Gladbach, I don't feel like Gladbach are going to let him go for less than 50 or 60, especially in the middle of the season where they're trying to push for Europe. They'd be a fool if they did that. And then Dan said, I know we need to do something because if Salah goes down, then we are done. I'm hearing some 68 or maybe now 70% of our goals have gone through Mo Salah. That's a problem. Mo is not going to be there forever. He's 32 years old. He's only going to get older. He's not going to be able to play forever. I think he's going to be one of those players that will play until he's like 35, 36 years old and beyond, maybe into the 40s. Not at Liverpool, of course, but I think he's one of those players that will play at a very high level for a really long time, kind of like a Cristiano Ronaldo, because he takes care of his body. But the production levels aren't always going to be there. And he'll eventually have to make a transition from the right wing into probably the middle of the pitch as well. So it's a lot of things that you got to kind of take into consideration when you're looking for another number 9. One, there aren't very many of them out there. And two, there's going to be a lot of changing dynamics into the team as the team gets older, naturally, right? I know we need to do something because if Salah goes down, okay, yeah, I already read that one. And then Joe said, I'm big on Kubo as a backup for Mo Salah. I love Takafusa Kubo. I thought he was going to be one that was going to show up for us a little bit sooner than he did. But I think the Liverpool staff may be a little bit wary of bringing in more Japanese products because they just haven't been panning out very well for us. I remember we were linked with Kisuke Honda. Who remembers Kisuke Honda? He was badass. I thought he was going to be the one, bro. We were heavily linked with Kisuke Honda. He had a great free kick on him too. It never materialized, sadly. We say Marmouche because we know he idolizes Salah and wants to imitate him. Salah is his mentor. It's true. But that doesn't mean that he is Mo. We have to keep that into consideration. Bro, the campaign to pay a club to take Nunez off our hands has started. Yeah, it's crazy. You see, so many Liverpool fans they coming after this man now. And Chiesa scored a nice goal midweek in the second team International League. I saw that. And I love it. Johan Wissa in January? No, sir. Mainly because Johan Wissa is another left winger. I like Wissa and I like Mbeumo. I think those two probably should have had moves already away from Brentford. But he's just another left winger that we're going to have to find out how we're going to be able to fit into the squad. That's the thing. Because you already got Chiesa, whose natural position is there. You got Gakpo, whose natural position is there. Luis Diaz, whose natural position is there. And if we want to be honest, Darwin, whose natural position is there. We're going to add another left winger? Doesn't make sense. Excuse me. Mo Salah could be a perfect 10 player eventually, but he needs to do more of those free kicks. Yeah, I think Mo Salah has the creative ability to be a great number 10 eventually. The way that he's able to find players with that outside of the boot curl is absolutely, it's a cheat code, bro. People don't talk about his creativity enough. He's about to overtake David Beckham in assist soon. He's one of the most creative players to ever play in the Premier League and one of the most prolific players to ever play in the Premier League. He's special. He's an alien. And then I'm also seeing in the news that we potentially may be going back in for Martin Zubimendi and Milos Kerkez in a double deal. If this is true, and it looks like it's gaining a lot of steam, it looks like it's gaining a lot of traction. And I typically don't bring these things up unless I feel like it potentially could come true. I like that move. I like that move a lot. I think would make it a perfect January would be assign another backup 9. I don't think getting rid of Darwin is the answer right now. I think we give him a little bit more time, but I do think we give him competition for the number 9 if we continue to play him there. He plays the 10 position in Egypt and a lot when he plays a little deep. That's true. He was very creative against Newcastle yesterday. That goal that he created was it's one of the best that I've seen, easily. But I do think Gravenberch does need some rest and rotating. So bringing in Zubimendi is going to be super important. I do think, Brighton lost 3-1 to Fulham. Oh, shit. That's tough. Hey, watch out for Fulham, guys. I don't see Zubimendi coming. Real Madrid desperately need him. I don't think they do. Do they? I think Manchester City desperately need him more than Real Madrid do. I think Madrid need a right back and probably a left back too. I can see Madrid maybe pushing for an Alfonso Davies move and a Pedro Porro move. I think that would be a perfect double signing for them in January. I could see Zubimendi going to Manchester City. They desperately need Zubimendi, but I think we'll see. We'll see what happens with Zubimendi. But Zubimendi and Kirkez would be a great January, and then a backup nine. I don't know who, but you guys let me know who you go after. We know the prices are going to be inflated in January, but I think that's what we have to do to kind of to seal the deal on this season. If we're serious about the season and we want to make this season happen, I think we have to go shopping in January. We do. But let me know what you guys who you guys think we should sign in January. If you could pick two players, let me know who they would be. Who are two? If we only had two shots at this thing, who are the two players you would sign in January? I'm really curious to know what you guys think. And then let's talk about what's next. The upcoming fixtures for Liverpool. What do you think about Stiller? Oh, damn, dude. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for bringing him up. What would backups for Zubimendi look like? I love Angelo Stiller. I love Angelo Stiller. That's such a FSG type of signing too. I like him a lot. He's such an underrated DM right now. I like him. I like Nico Saywald, who is an RBDM as well. These are some that are just coming off the top of my head who are like not very well known defensive midfielders that I feel like could do a job and be a deputy for Ryan. I like Javi Guerra. If you've been following the channel at all, you know I'm big on him. He's 6'2", big boy, eye for goal, great passing range, and fantastic in the air. Um, I like Gerald Hato, who is a left back and a center back combo, but he has all of the tools to play as a DM. Fantastic passing range, fantastic pace. He's one of those Ajax products that you could put him anywhere, put him anywhere on the field and he'll do well. Excuse me. Who else? Who else would be a good replacement? Hugo Larson is another one who's at Gladbach, but I'm hearing he's going to cost an arm and a leg if anybody wants him. He's good. So those are just a few that I know off the top of my head who could do the Zubimendi role, who I think could do the Zubimendi role and maybe not cost as much as Zubimendi and also would be younger, right? Let's just hope Slot has strong influence on FSG to get his players of choice. So Slot seems like a no nonsense kind of guy, bro. I hope he brings that same energy he brings to the press conferences to the boardrooms. I'll be so disappointed in FSG if we don't get anyone that's putting their handcuffs on Slot. It's true. If we and that's a fact. And you guys know I'm not FSG and FSG out or anything like that. But I try to keep it real and I try to tell it how I see it. If FSG don't back Slot, that says a lot about them. And then I think it's reasonable to put them to the sword. The Mbappe problem is similar to the Nunes problem. Both of them are left wingers, not strikers. So true. That's a good point. The only thing that will stop Zubimendi to Real Madrid is Basque players do have a aversion of playing for the capital because of their allegiance to the Basque separatism. Good point. The problem is Mbappe can pass, but Nunes can't pass to save his life. I think Nunes is actually an underrated passer, believe it or not. By the way, Mbappe has not received any real coaching since the Monaco days. That's why he's struggling right now. He should have come to Liverpool instead. It's true. And that's a really good point that you bring that up because he's always just been this big superstar. and maybe a little bit too soon, sooner than he probably should have. And at those ages in the early 20s and things like that, when you win a World Cup so early and they're hailing you as the next this and the next that, those are the most crucial stages. I mean, Cristiano, he had Sir Alex. Messi had Pep. You know what I mean? Some of the greatest managers or greatest players of all time, they had that one manager that was like a dad to them. Mbappe never had that, right? Mbappe never had that manager that could put his arm on his shoulder and tell him something. I feel like no other manager can really do that to Mbappe or has tried to do that for Mbappe, and it's showing. That's such a good point, right? Excuse me. Red Chili said, I'll be honest, I don't know two to sign in January. I only know the Liverpool players. Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's look at these next couple matches. We got the Merseyside Derby on Saturday. That was going to be an early morning one. I'm going to be in California. I'll still be doing a video reaction for you guys that day. But it should be a great game, and hopefully we get a win out of that one. And then another one, our next game after that is going to be against Fulham. That should be a tough match. I'll do the next three. And then another one against Tottenham. This is going to be a crucial run. These next three are going to be a crucial run, man. We have to get a result at Everton. I'm going to predict a 2-0 win at Everton. For Liverpool versus Fulham, I don't know. That's going to be a tough match. That's going to be a tough match. I'm going to say a draw for that one. Unless they don't do well against Arsenal this Sunday. But if they take points off of Arsenal, that's going to be a tough match for us. Fulham have shown that they are very hard to beat this season. And they just know how to pull off results. And then Tottenham. Tottenham could do a very Tottenham thing. They could lose to Bournemouth today, and then they could beat us. So I don't know. That one's like a crapshoot. We will see what happens for Tottenham. But let's see. Is it Tottenham at home? Is it Tottenham at home? I don't think so. I think we're away. Yep. Well, it's Fulham at home, so we'll get that win. We'll get that win. It'll be close, but we'll get that win. Fulham at home, we'll get that win. But Tottenham away, that one's going to be a tough one. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But let's see. Oh, there's talk of the derby being called off for severe weather. I did not see that. I did not see that. Is that true? It could be postponed. Oh, I did not know that. We'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Storm Darg. I did not know that. Josh said Hincapié or Kirkes, Zubamendi or Stiller, striker Cunha or João Pedro. Ooh, good point. Josh, I like you. I like you, Josh. That is a really, really good shout there. I can see Brighton trying to freaking get an arm and a leg for João Pedro, though. We may be able to snatch Cunha off of Wolves, though. Interesting. So, we have a tradition of making great players, not buying them. That's true. Good point. That's why I feel like Angela Stiller is such a typical FSG signing. And then David said 60 to 70 mile per hour gust. Holy crap. Okay. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that as things develop. But I am going to wrap up stream here. I love you all. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I know my voice is crazy. I've been coughing and sneezing and all this extra stuff. I promise I'll be back to 100% by the next one. We're going to go back to our usual stream time of every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. British time. So thank you all for hanging in there with me. Thank you guys for always showing love to me. I'm going to put this episode up today. It's going to be pretty awesome. Oh, our next stream, actually, it's not going to be Tuesday. It's going to be Monday because I'm going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, and I won't have time to do a stream on Tuesday. So it's going to be Monday next week. I'll put a post out. Same time, though. But I appreciate and love all of you guys the whole time. Up the Reds, always. And a true definition of our slogan, you'll never walk alone, for you guys sticking it out with me through this stream as the elements have been battling against me and things like that. So I appreciate all of you. Have an amazing night. You guys be safe out there, especially with the storm. And hopefully we do have a Merseyside